everybody, welcome to a special edition of Tidewater Talks. As you see, I'm here with some of my brothers and sisters in the music industry here in Virginia. Hello, everybody that's on the call.
Hey.
How y'all doing?
Hey.
All right. How you doing?
What's up, everybody?
It's good to see everybody. I know it's been a lot going on with this pandemic and with this COVID-19 going on, and it's affected everyone, especially musicians, singers, teachers, producers, sound engineers, band owners, everything. So I just wanted to bring some of my friends together just so we can have a little conversation to try to see how we can get through this as a family, as a team of musicians and singers. So just want to start the conversation off. How's everybody doing? How's everybody making out in this pandemic season?
Best we can.
I'm losing weight.
Sleep powder off, but hey, nevertheless, my sleep powder all the way off.
Making the best of it.
Making the best.
Ditto. Making the best.
Getting it done. Just getting it done.
I can only imagine how it is for educators. You're having to do everything from Zoom and Google Classroom and all those things, and engineers, having to wire everybody's sound for their church and all their meetings via virtual. I can imagine that could be very stressful and tedious, but I know there's a lot going on, but we're going to get through this together. So I just want to ask, start off with some questions. So anybody, how this affecting, this not going to work, not going to church, how is this affecting your day-to-day life? A lot of us, I know I'm a musician. I live from paycheck to paycheck. So, no work, no play. Well, not for me in this situation, but how's that affecting you all? Let's talk.
I would say for me, right now, the effects that I'm feeling first and foremost is actually just some time of rest.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not. I mean, because it stopped everything. So I'm coming home every day when I leave from work, and I'm sitting in the house like, I can't believe I'm in the house at 6 o'clock and it's still light outside,
Yeah, that's true. Anybody else?
I agree with Pat wholeheartedly, man. For most of us that are in music, either you do it full time, but for myself, I have a full-time job as well as being a father. So a lot of times we get off work and we go straight to church, and we get off work and we have rehearsals and we have other services that we have to go to. So that can easily lead to burnout. So this time for me, it's literally just a time for rest, to just recover. And it's just like almost like it's personal for me, really.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I can imagine with all this downtime. I know we even naturally having the creative juices, or we are forcefully coming up with ideas and ways to keep our music ministries and education classrooms and industry just relevant. So, any new songs, any new music? What musically? What are we doing in this season at home? I know it's been a month for me, and I know I wrote 2 songs. I've never wrote a song, so I wrote 2 songs. What's going on with you all creatively, musically, Calvin?
Oh yeah, definitely, because you ain't got nothing else to do but be creative. You can't get in the house, and then I'm saved, but you get on my nerves after a while. You just be in the house all the time.
Yeah.
I've been doing full-time ministry for a minute, so this is all I know. Mm-hmm. So I'm used to it. My body is conditioned just to be on the go. But now he's like, what? And I ain't even gonna say when it gets it's easy when I get in the studio to create, because it's still you gotta be in that flow. You gotta be. Sometimes I'm just in there just looking and playing the same old songs over and over until something hit me. But you gotta allow time for that. It don't come easy like that. It ain't easy being greasy all the time.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I know. I can imagine people like Jeremy. Your band had so many gigs and engagements, and I know House, you had many events and concerts and conventions, and I can only imagine, Titus, all the PR that you were doing, planning and getting stuff together. How's that going? Canceling events. Are they making up stuff? What do you all do? I can only imagine.
I know for me, the summer is my biggest time. That's when I'm on my convention. Spring, that's when I'm moving.
Right.
So they didn't cancel men's conference. They canceled AIM. Jim W is probably coming. All the conferences that we hit during the summer, and for musicians, that's the change maker it's already done. We hoping, you know, that everything reconvenes in the fall, basically.
Right.
I'm in the same boat actually. Like Pat had mentioned, like we, you know, our church organization, we just released statements that our conference just got. It's funny because our youth convention is actually starting like Tuesday. I'm supposed to be leaving to go to, you know, our conference next week, and that's over. And today, actually, I had a show that I was playing today in Richmond at Tin Pan with a jazz artist that I had on my calendar last year, the end of last year, coming into like today. I'm literally supposed to be on stage like right now. We play at 8:00. I was texting the artist and the homie Sprat. We was playing together. I texted him, I was like, man, we supposed to be in sound check right now. Like, oh man, we supposed to be, you know, sitting in the green room type thing. But it's just something that is kind of like I'm just taking it day by day, man. It's understanding that I'm saying it's a temporary situation. Like, you know, how you doing? I'm good during this temporary situation. I just keep saying that because I'm like, it ain't, you know, I'm just taking it like day by day. But
this is not our new norm. Titus, how's it, you know, being on the radio, having to encourage people? I've been following your prayer calls and they've been so uplifting and helping everybody. But, you know, how's it, you know, being on the radio, having to encourage musicians and singers, and, you know, this is your field, you know, how does that work?
Well, it's just the thing of, it's a lot of programs and there's a lot of grants that are coming up now for musicians. And this is something that the country, the world, we've never had to deal with, where we've had this pandemic. So it's like, as we go, these grants and these opportunities are presenting themselves. And it's just basically, you get on the radio. I do a lot of pre-recording, and I can just email my files over. You just kind of be truthful with people and tell them to stay home. As for me, I'm an essential worker, so I've been going to work every day.
Wow.
To be essential.
I haven't had I'm not complaining about it, because there's a lot of people out here that not getting any kind of income at all.
Right.
So I haven't had a chance to, you know, catch up on rest, other than me not having to go to choir rehearsals for the church I play for. But even with that, we stream on Sunday, so I still got to go on Sundays.
Absolutely.
And I thank God for that too, for this good old Baptist church.
Ain't he good now? Ain't he good?
Baptist.
Yeah, but even without that, there, you know, you just got to be honest. We've never been in this place before, and with this, it's come a lot of inspiration for me, just looking at what other people are doing on social media, and coming up with trying to think of some new ideas outside of the music. That when, you know, we're all kind of sitting home, but to bring in other revenues of income other than music.
Right. So, House, you had something?
Oh no, I was giving them an amen.
Oh,
I'm not trying to be super deep or nothing like that. But in this season, I found myself living off the 10%.
That's
Church
a good point.
or the things that I'm doing now usually make up only 10% of my income, and 90% is gone. But I'm living off the 10% right now.
Wow.
So it's in my mind. It's kind of, you know, it's teaching me something also at the same time. So.
That's the truth. I mean, because most of us have been in somebody's church, playing in somebody's church, directing in somebody's church. So we know what the Bible says and what the Bible teaches. And this is a good segue to actually lead me into one of the questions that I had prepared. You know, a lot of back and forth has been going forward with preachers and pastors about, you know, should we have church? Should we not have church? Should we have it outside? Should we just have just the 10 people? Some churches don't have streaming, so they say we're just not going to be relevant at all. What are your take? Because as a musician, you know, most churches, you know, we don't play, we don't get enough money. So we don't have the money. How do we compensate our families, our livelihood? So, Jeremy, how, you know, as a drummer, you know, as a band owner, you know, how do you, you know, deal with that? What's your opinion on the church? You know, you think we should have church? You think we should not?
In my opinion, well, the church I play for as of right now, they're not having, I don't actually have to go in and play. So they just kind of do like a little trio type thing and just sing. So at first they were paying us. They were paying us every week. And I actually just got the call last week, and they were like, well, the church is not going to be able to afford to pay the musicians. You know, are you going to stay? Are you going to leave? Or what's going to happen? Well, for me, as some of us on this call or this dialogue, I actually have a regular job as well. So it's not like I live directly off of band stuff or live directly off of church. So it really didn't bother me as much, but it did bother, a couple of the other musicians. But I guess you just have to realize that right now churches may not be getting the same amount of tithe that they may get when we're in church, when we meet. So in my perspective, as far as having church, I mean, I've seen some people having it outside. I've seen some people cancel. I guess it depends on the church, and it depends on the actual musician at the church. Everyone's household is different. So
right. So Dom, I know Dom, you are one of Virginia's finest. You're in demand. Everybody's pulling on you in season and out of season.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how do you handle that, Dom? Because you have a full-time job. You are a producer. You have your own movie company. How do you handle playing for churches with only 10 people or going here and there? How do you balance that? What's your opinion on this?
Well, I have a very unique opinion, but I think a lot of people would kind of agree with it. I think, first of all, it should be up to the discretion of the leader. But I also think that we have a responsibility to do our part. It's easy to look at it solely from the financial piece, but the health risks are so much greater than, like Brandon said, this temporary situation. So we can look at these temporary bills and the things that we temporarily have to take care of, because it does make us uncomfortable. Going back to Mike's point about being forced to live off of the 10%. But at the end of the day, I'd rather us be in a situation where we can get beyond this by finding ways to be creative. And then even greater, for where the church is going, not to go this route, but for where the church is going, it's going to take this time. It's going to take this level of creativity. And I feel like God is really challenging all of us as creatives to find out what our box is so we can break beyond it. A lot of, and I'll use myself as an example, when you get used to your rhythm, you get used to your lifestyle being a certain way, and okay, I go to work from 8 to 5. When I leave work, I got to be at this rehearsal and this meeting by 6:30. Church is starting at 7:30. When I leave that, I might have another rehearsal. Well, I know for me, sometimes when I'm at work, I'm supervising moving jobs. I'm learning music for something else at my desk. And it's like, now we're in a season where literally everything has literally come to a halt. And literally you're forced to say, okay, God, like, what more is there? I know for me specifically, there were a lot of things that I've had before the Lord, just being, a musician. And I'm like, okay, God, like, I love what I do, but I don't want to get so consumed to the point that I don't enjoy what I do. And I feel like this is kind of that moment to recalibrate and put things back in perspective. So when it does turn, you can have a better, a fresh wind, if you will.
Got you. And Alex, I know that you're an educator, and we thank you for dealing with our kids, because the last month, personally, with my 3 children, I've been wanting to sell them on eBay to the highest bidder. But as an educator, I can imagine trying to retain their attention in the classroom physically. So now doing it, online, with other streams of teaching, learning. How's that going? How's that? I can only pray for you. How's that going?
I think definitely for anyone, we're all going through the same thing. It's definitely an adjustment. I think being specific to teaching, it's our approach has been more to support our students and support the families more than anything. Of course, I'm going to provide instruction to the kids, but at the end of the day, we're sending them home. A lot of parents aren't able to work with them. They may have to work. They may be an essential worker. They may be doing a lot of other things. And so at this point, I do things with them, provide exercises, whatever the case may be. And our division has certain things in place. But really, our approach is being supportive. Everybody is in this. This is something that we've never done before. It's something that we've never experienced before. And I think holistically, not just in education, but everyone needs to be more supportive and really understanding of where everybody is. It's a day-by-day situation. Everything changes. So we can't say that, okay, we're going to do this. This may not work. I think it sheds a light onto how much technology can be utilized. And I do believe that a shift may happen. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but I do believe that in every area, whether it's ministry, it's education, it's business, you see people working online. And I believe that people are going to have to restructure what they do in case something like this happens again. Now we can say, of course we live in faith, and we stay on God's word. We say, okay, you know, we're planning that. We're praying that this doesn't happen again. But we also have to plan and be proactive. And so I think it just sheds a light on a lot of different areas, but it really shows, I think the biggest thing, I think my biggest takeaway from the whole situation is compassion. I think that's something that we all have got to learn, how to be compassionate and really understanding of each other during this time.
I can only, you know, Elder Riddick, I'm about to ask you a question. I see Calvin Austin, he's a minister of music. I see Tavares Powell, he's a minister of music. All of us play and teach. And how as a executive pastor, as well as have your own musical lane where you have created the Prince of Praise and Worship, the Virginia sound. How do you balance the two? You know, being an artist, being a full-time father, employed at a university, and you pastor a church. You have to create things and make people feel like, hey, you know, it's okay to support the church. It's okay to give your money. It's okay to, you know, sing along. How do you deal with that?
It's definitely a balancing act at times, and then it's a thing of prioritizing. But then too, on the grand scope of things, because I am bivocational, once I get beyond what I do during the day, everything else that is different somehow is the same. So even with the executive pastor, even with the artistry or state ministry music or doing something in the national church musically, I'm generally taking an element out of each facet and it's working for the other, or either it's all working for a bigger picture or helping something that I'm doing with the other. So, of course, being executive pastor, well, having served all those years as a minister of music, you learn a great level of administration right there. You're not just singing. And so then you're able to apply it. I mean, there's no secret. The best pastors, the best executive pastors, assistant pastors typically come out of the music department.
Absolutely.
So what we've been doing all along, now you just finally get your chance to do that on an official capacity. So being it with musical, we're automatically creatives. So during this time as executive pastor and helping lead Pastor Whitey Thorogood, just really having to tap into that creative piece to help keep the church going and engaged while we're doing this downtime with the pandemic.
And I had a question for Minister Powell. I know that you are in the healthcare field, you know, by profession, and I know that it can be challenging because a lot of musicians, a lot of singers may not have health insurance. They may not have the finances saved to be able to go to the emergency room or to get a doctor's appointment. How important is it for a musician to try to invest in ourselves as far as getting some type of savings, 401k, having health insurance, dental insurance? You know, can you speak on that aspect?
Well, honestly, unfortunately, from what I see, because I deal with a lot of the healthcare and things of that nature with Centera, unfortunately, in the Black community is primarily where we don't see the necessary need to actually have those things in place, as far as a 401k, a savings, or just healthcare insurance. We don't feel like it's a need until we actually need it. So then you have situations like this that arise, and at any given moment, you know, you could become affected by what's going on right now. And if you don't have that insurance, you're going to get hit with a bill pretty much. So I'm fortunate. You know, a lot of musicians aren't necessarily fortunate to actually, you know, be established at a church that offers healthcare insurance.
Amen.
You know, but as musicians, I will always be an advocate for saving your money.
Right. And even when you talk about saving and healthcare and finances, my next question to House, because you are a father of many children. I mean, beautiful girls, 8 children. And I can only imagine how this has impacted, you know, because you are backlining for everybody. You're doing concerts. You're setting up virtual feeds for churches and pastors across the state of Virginia. So how has this, you know, this season of having to really, you know, realign yourself for this temporary season about how to take care of your family? You know, how's that?
Well, fortunately, we have this thing called YouTube. And I've been taking this time just to hone in on other skills, you know, things that I used to say, that's not my lane. I'll stay out of that lane. Mm-hmm. I'm over here on the sound. But now I find myself on YouTube and buying lights and learning how to do lighting and learning how to do video production and stuff like that. And just as I'm learning, the need has been coming up and people have been calling, like, I'm trying to figure this out. I've been over to Lynchburg to a church to get them online. I came back here. I've helped another church in Hampton. So it's just, it's, by the grace of God, you know, something else was in my hand and I'm able to use that one thing that I had in my hand to keep it sustaining me. So, you know, but most of my kids are grown. I only got 2 babies. I mean,
glory to God.
The rest of them, you know, they 19 and up and got jobs and being educated and stuff. So it's not as I don't want to make it as bad as it sounds. It's like if all of them boogers was here under this roof, I'll be outside with a sign or something. But you know, God is good.
And I think that leads us to a good segue, because for years I've always acknowledged Calvin Austin as my mentor, because he's always showed me the discipline about how to be on time, be prepared, you know, have your money saved, make sure you're on top of your business. And Calvin, with that said, you know, how important is it now as musicians, you know, who are claiming to be business owners, who say I had this and that, and they don't have the paperwork to prove it? Because if the government is giving funding and you had your paperwork in order, then it's easy for you to apply and get those loans and grants and things. So could you speak to that, Calvin, how we as musicians and teachers and educators should, you know, invest in some type of, you know, branding, getting ourselves together?
You hit it on the head. I said, when I talk to any musician, and I told you this, before you do anything, make sure you get your business straight. I don't care what you're doing. If you're playing hide and go seek, I don't care. You're playing Mary Down. You get your business straight. I know too many musicians and people that's in the industry want to do and make plans and all that stuff. Getting there, then all of a sudden they ain't got the business. But that should have been the first thing you did. Even when you go on to play for a church, get the business. Don't say, okay, I'm going to play for you Sunday. Then after you play, they hand you $25. You're like, oh, we ain't had no talk about it. This is all we can afford. If you get your business straight, should be the first conversation. And you know, anybody that's ever dealt with me, that's my first conversation. And if you don't like me because of that, that's not my problem. Because you obviously need something that I have. So I'm going to talk the business so we can be on the same page. And then at the end of when I do my job, I have no problem with coming to you to discuss what we already discussed.
Absolutely.
You understand? Get your business straight. Have an understanding of where you're going to work with the church, what you're looking for, what you need. You know, with this pandemic has made all of us, everybody realizes that if that was one of our only source, we all losing right now.
Yep.
And it's making us realize we have to be creative now. Everybody on here has some kind of gift that somebody wants. And what made me feel good when I saw Patrick do his flyers, he said, if y'all want to learn how to be a better this and want to be a better that, sign up. Because you have what I have, you want what I have, and I'm willing to shoot you. And that's everybody house. Alex, everybody has some. Everybody can do that because you have something that somebody. So we ain't got to be home broke.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
We ain't got to do it. We get to say, hey, I'm still working. I got a studio. So when people say, hey, Calvin, I need some keys. Calvin, I need some music done. Calvin, I need some vocals. I'm still working. You ain't got to come to my house. I can say everything here. We can do what we're doing now. This is showing you because for everybody depended on that church. That church check was great. It was wonderful. Now we ain't having church. We're like, oh, that was all I was getting. And fortunate for those of us that have church that we're on salary, we can still get money, but everybody ain't got that kind of situation. So this is showing us all. Now we got to get moving. And like I said, I was inspired. I said, Patrick, that's how you do it. I ain't gonna sit home and like I ain't got no money. No, no, you need to know something. I know something that you need to learn. Come holler at me, pay me. You'll grow. I'll grow. You understand? None of us got to be broke, but you got to.
Yeah, you got it. That's right. And Pat, you want to say something? I saw you leaning up.
No. I was just enjoying what Calvin was saying. Yeah, we ain't gotta be broke. I was sitting here. I said, I don't know when this is gonna stop. Since my workshops have been canceled, I got to find a way to get my workshops to the people and still keep some food on the table.
Absolutely. I was encouraged, just listening to Patrick and Calvin and other business owners, Dom and Jeremy. I was encouraged to start this piano thing because having almost 30 years doing music, I didn't realize the gift of teaching that God has given me. I always based it teaching basically on skill, not thinking that, hey, if you can show somebody how to fish, they can take care of themselves for the rest of their life. You may not be the best fisher, but if you know how to fish, then you teach them how to fish. So I was able to get my business license, and I was just talking to my wife, and I was informed that it's some benefits that come as being a small business owner. So had I not started that in January, I'll still, that's another stream of income that could possibly be cut off. But now, the Lord opened doors of virtual lessons and all these things. So I think that goes back to having your business straight. And even with that, I think branding ties in that, branding yourself, because, and I want to ask, Tavares and Brandon to chime in on this, because a lot of people on social media during this downtime, they don't know what to do with their time. We've seen Facebook Lives after Facebook Lives, and it just seemed like, hey, you forget your minister of music. You are a business owner. You are a preacher. Some things you can't afford to go down with this pandemic. So Tavares or Brandon, speak to that for me, how important it is to keep your brand integral in this season.
It's very important. Personally, I would like to say it is. Before I mention that, like to just piggyback off what Calvin was mentioning, it's very important, like you said, for branding, business and stuff like that. Wise, because myself, I recently just kind of like segued into that. It's something I should have done a long time ago, but that's everybody's story.
Right.
I should have did this a long time ago when somebody said it, but you just don't do anything. But over the last 2017, I was gifted the opportunity to go on tour, like my first major tour with an artist. And at that time, everybody's asking me, it's like, yo, you got a business? And I'm like, nah. I mean, I've always heard about it, but it didn't really dawn on me until I needed to get it, because, like you said, business side. When them checks start coming in, and I'm realizing like, oh, this ain't just like a regular job, because I am my enterprise. I am my job. So the stuff that we don't take as musicians, the understanding like, oh, I get a check, but there's taxes. There's
absolutely
all this needs to come out, and it's going to come back to you at the end of the year. Whereas the money that you thought that you want, that.
Yep.
Oh, hey, so you owe this much because so on and so forth.
Take care of business.
So from there, which warranted me to go get where Tailor Made Music LLC was established from there, where I was able to handle my business. So from doing that, I only did it off of, I just needed to cover myself on tours when I'm getting these large lump sums when I'm out for 2 months. So I can do that. But it starts segueing into when I work at the churches, or I cut a session.
Absolutely.
I'm with jazz artists. Like tonight, I was supposed to be playing. Like when I'm playing with these artists, I do 4 or 5 gigs with them. I mean, it helped me understand after a certain amount of money, they're gonna send you
another bracket.
You gonna get something.
$10.99.
Hey man, I
$10.99.
Okay, cool. And all this stuff started to happen. And when they send $10.99, then I give them my EIN number. They're like, "Oh, what's this?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is my my LLC. Yeah, you need this." So I've learned like, yo, this is needed, and to do like House mentioned, like because I established that, it starts to prick my mind to do other things. I don't gear myself like you just mentioned, Devon. Like, I've started doing drum lessons now. Like I've picked up maybe 5 or 6 drum students. I don't have that art as you and Alex, like a gift in teaching. I don't have the patience. I don't have none. I know that's still a virtue that I'm still trying to desire, because working with people, it's still encouraging when I do that. And from there, I'm doing drum lessons, And then I start moving over into drum consulting because I see watching people like, oh, okay, at first I thought this was far-fetched. Like, okay, this is stuff that people are supposed to already know. But then it's just like, nah, it's not. And now I'm like, okay, so how do I make this work?
Right.
When I'm approaching churches, churches, like, hey man, you know, you need some ideas of what to do with your church. Like, you got a drum set in here. I mean, it doesn't fit. It looks bad. Who's doing, like, you've heard of piano tuner, right? Yeah. You've heard of an organ.
That's right.
You know, just somebody do maintenance on your organ. All right, cool. So who's doing maintenance on your drums?
Nobody.
You know, like that stuff. And to me, in my head, I'm just like, I know that's far-fetched because, I mean, if I'm playing drums, I'm consistently keeping my drums tuned. I'm consistently making sure my drums ain't messed up and so on and so forth. If something breaks, I know I'm looking around to go shop. But certain people don't. And I'm like,
right,
okay, that's something else which I have to form into what you say branding-wise.
Right.
Like, these are the things that I do. You know, we have to create other avenues. Yeah, I can play drums all day. I can cut a record. I can cut sessions. I get all this. But when that doesn't happen as much, because this pool is big, like, what are you doing that can be consistent? And that's where I was like, okay, cool. Lessons,
right,
you know, things like that I need to put in so I can keep going under my business.
Your business. That makes sense.
It keeps it going. Branding wise, like you said, social media. Me personally, I'm still trying to like get used to it. I can't post all day, you know, videos and a minute and a half clips of me playing drum because I wasn't built like that. I just don't know how to, because I can't fathom up like, okay, I'm gonna show you a minute and a half of me doing something that I practiced 50 times before posting. Instead of really understanding, you know what I'm saying? I get it. And I've learned. And there's no shade, but that's what's happening. Like, a lot of people are putting up videos like, yo, and they're amazing piano players, drummers, bass players. That's cool. But it's a minute and a half of something that can you go back and open your computer up and let me see how many takes? Right. Videos. And I'm on, because even with companies, like, influence is becoming very big now. You know,
right.
I was blessed to become endorsed by a company now, something that I've wanted to, a state company. I'm endorsed with Vic Firth. And in their instructions, when they sent me everything, my contract and all this in there, it had a whole section about social media, about branding. Like, they were sending me like hashtags to put.
Right. It's
important to post. They want me to post. Every time you post, I need you to put this hashtag. Right. I need you to post videos holding the sticks. I need you to post videos of you playing. And I'm understanding the branding side of it. But me personally, like, I feel the best way to brand,
right,
of course, trying to reach out is doing it in your area first. Because I can't expect to be out being influenced. Or influencer if I can't do it at home. If I'm not influencing the people around me that I can touch first, it's not going to work to go out.
When I first started when Tidewater Talks, it was just an idea. You know, I threw it at Patrick, I threw it at Larry, I threw it at Calvin. I said, hey, I just want to document, you know, the wealth of musicians in this area. Right. And not knowing some 3 years now, I lost count of how many people is now following and has become better because of something that I was scared to do.
Absolutely.
I was the only person with that hashtag, when Tidewater Talks or Virginia Strong, and I would put it on everything. Even my personal stuff that wasn't related, I would still put Virginia Strong. And now everywhere you look, you see that branding hashtag. Not that I'm the only one that does it, but I know that's what I believe, that, you know, consistency, you know, makes the vision come alive. So I make it work. So, and even if that, I'm gonna chime in Tavares and Titus. You know, with branding, I mean, people that are very strong leaders that has a following on social media. How important is it to be careful, not to be reckless in this season? Tavares and then Titus.
I know for me, man, honestly, when it comes to branding and creativity in itself, I kind of got like a early introduction of it because I'm from a little small place called Franklin.
I know,
Franklin, Virginia.
Paper mill.
Yeah, the paper mill. Don't nobody want to come out there. We didn't have Guitar Center. We didn't have any of the stuff that most people are, you know, acclimated with having. So we always had to be creative. I mean, at all times. So that creativity, it came into effect, especially dealing with the music scene. I'm in company right now with some of like VA's greatest. I mean, so many people that I have a high respect for. Honestly, I think that's the greatest part about branding. I think people will automatically gravitate to you when you learn how to respect what other people do.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Oh, what a way to have
Yeah,
your
he froze right on that.
right on time. Titus, come here, Titus.
Oh my God.
I think with the branding, it's all about perception.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as for me, I think I've been blessed. Well, I know I've been blessed because I've gotten a lot of opportunities from social media and my branding. But at the same time, you have to put a curve on it, so to speak. You got to know how far to go. And I can say this from experience because I love to laugh. I love to joke. But ultimately, you have to kind of figure out what it is that you're branding. Like me, I wear a lot of different hats. And some people may say you shouldn't really do all of that. You should really focus on one thing. But, I got the musical side of me where I sing. Then I have the radio show. Then I'm also a concert promoter. And they all kind of work together. But once again, like I said in the beginning, I think it's all in perception. And one thing with social media, you can't expect people to like your stuff or share your stuff if you never share or like anybody else's stuff. Like that's one thing about me. If I put out a single next week, it's not going to be nobody wants to share it because I didn't share theirs or I didn't share theirs. I think that's another thing with branding that, like the Bible says, is it in the Bible? It's just a good saying. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I think that works.
That's in the book.
It's in the book somewhere.
That's the book. That is the book.
And I agree. And a lot of people can attest that the Mickeys will support you if you're having a donut sale or if you're selling T-shirts. It don't matter what it is because we just believe that we are better together. A lot of people like to divide and be single in certain things, but I believe unity brings strength, and even bringing strength, bringing you all who are professionals in the areas of music industry that you do. I believe everyone on this call has an insight that can really help somebody who might have these questions, who may not be able to just call up a Calvin or ask Dom this or talk to Jeremy about planning an event or this and that the magnitude. So I think that it's important that we all keep the foresight the main thing and not get sidetracked by all this stuff because like Brandon said, this is just a temporary fix because we know a God that's going to bring us out of all of this and we know that this is all going to turn around. But I did want to ask Alex a question with regards to this pandemic in the school systems. How effective can you be as an educator? Because I know a heart of a teacher, they love to teach music and to teach them how to read music and teach them how to understand the different tempos and types of music. But with this school year probably ending physically, how do you maintain your level of sanity as a teacher, as a music teacher?
I think you can't think of and look at it as it's ending. I think you have built those positive relationships and support of your kids. Just because the school year has ended, you're not physically connected to them. You still have connection with them through, social media, technology, whatever the case may be, however you're communicating with your kids. So I try not to look at it as like, I don't have that way to reach them. When I have those positive relationships with them and I've supported them, then I can utilize that. And that's what, keeps pushing you. A lot of teachers, we invest in our kids as if you don't have kids or you invest in them as they're your own. And so to not physically be around them does take its toll, but you have to figure out your ways that you can still give them that whatever they need, that push, that love, whatever, that security, because a lot of times you don't know what they're going to outside of school. And for some students, what you gave them in your classroom is maybe all of that they get, all the love, all the security, all the support, whatever the case may be. But you have to find other ways to do that. So, just trying to be there for them, reaching out to them, reaching out to parents, supporting them however you possibly can. Of course, I look at it, my job as a teacher isn't done if the only thing my kids walk out of my classroom being able to do is read music. I want something that I've said to them, something I've imparted, something that they saw me do in my everyday activity, reflect them, and they be able to take that. You know, if I only teach and they only have the content, my job wasn't done. Yeah, they have the skill, but what can take them and push them forward? So.
Right. I think, listen, it's nothing need to be said after that statement. I'm telling you, that's the honest to God truth, because I've learned so many life principles outside of the area of session that I was in. I know my band teachers in college and high school, they taught me more how to be a man and a provider for my family than more music than they've learned. So I appreciate teachers who really take that time to invest in their children. And even when we talk about investing, how often Dom and Jeremy, or how important is it to have, types of getaways to really, woosah per se, have staycations or vacations or daycations, for that matter. How important is it to take care of yourself? We asked for a break and we got it one way or another with this pandemic. But how important is it to take care of yourself? Jeremy, Dom?
Well, with me, as far as having a son, well, a wife, a son, the band, church, and everything like that, I think that taking vacations is very important. When I first started the band, I never liked to go nowhere because I just didn't have the trust in them that they would go, and back to Brandon, that they would go and brand us well. So if I wasn't there, I'd be like, nope, we can't do this show, we can't do this gig. But then I started seeing that take a toll on my family, and I was like, well, no. So as I built the band up and I matured more into what I'm doing, I take vacations a lot. I get somebody to come fill in or do whatever, whether it's in church or whether it's with the band, wherever it is. I get someone else to come that I know that back to branding us, that brand as well. But I think it's very important to do so, and just when you do that, just try to take your mind off of church or your job or the band or whatever you're doing. Like, or if you're a tour like Brandon, when he goes on tour, take your mind off of that stuff, because everybody think that, oh yeah, you're on tour, you're doing this gig or blah, blah, that everything is always good. And sometimes it's not. You got to deal with different people, different personalities, and you have to keep your brand straight. So going on vacations and things like that, I think is very good to do. I try to do it often, whether it's going to Williamsburg or whether it's going to Florida, California, whatever it might be. Do it, because it'll give you a peace of mind. Then when you come back, you're a little more refreshed, and you may be able to help someone else out being more refreshed and being more clear-minded, because when you're going day to day to day to day with just different things, sometimes your mind could just get real clogged up and you could be upset with somebody and just go off. But once you go on this vacation or whatever it is that you may do, and maybe not with your family, you may just want to go somewhere by yourself or one of your homeboys or whatever, and just go and have fun. Come back and you're all refreshed and you should be good. But I think it's real important.
No?
I want to interject. It was something I was thinking about earlier, I think, when Brandon was talking. And it's the piece that you teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. And so for me, I haven't taken a real vacation since 2017. And that's probably like a strong statement, but seeing the way that I run, you will probably understand it. And I think for me, the biggest piece was understanding that my mind worries so much, just from an accountability standpoint of, okay, so much happens when I'm here. If I were to step away from this, can I trust that things are going to at least be enough to, survive in my absence? And then two, when you know how things are supposed to go and you're used to having a certain amount of control just to make sure things can be efficient, you want to make sure that the brand and the expectation can stay at the same level. And sometimes you being gone for a day or 2 days, God forbid it's a 5 or 6 day cruise or something, and you're not as accessible to people and people aren't as accessible to you. And it seems like the whole world just falls apart because you're absent, just carrying that weight. But then you don't even realize that by not giving yourself that time to pull away from life as you know it, you're not even doing yourself the justice to be able to come back and continue to push and continue to pour. And even coming from the perspective of Jeremy, I'm a parent too. So if I'm not good enough to myself, I can't be good as a father. I can't be good in any other area that I'm trying to build so that I can continue to be everything that I desire to be. So that's something we got to kind of be conscious about.
One thing we're going to have to learn, I think us creators and us musicians in general, we are by nature, for lack of better terms, Captain Save-A-Hoes. In other words, we try to save everybody and neglect ourselves. We don't want the pastor to go without for a week or for a weekend so we can get a break. We don't want to let a family member down. We don't want to let this person down. We don't want to let that person down. And what we find is how we end up building is when you turn the tables, they don't necessarily reciprocate how you were giving out to them. So then you become hurt because you didn't save, and you certainly didn't take a break or do for you as you ought to. So I learned 2 years ago, I was like, Dom, I had went years, almost 15, 20 years without taking a break. And I'm like, man, I'm doing all these conventions. These are not vacations because I'm still tired. I'm not able to create now because my mind is just cloudy. I'm just going. So 2 years ago, I promised myself, I said, one in the spring and one in the fall. Because if you don't do that, not only are you not going to be at your best here, you're cutting yourself short physically.
I wholeheartedly agree.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, Pat. Honestly, man, I see that in the hospital so often, man. I work hands-on with people that has like major disabilities and things of that nature, and a lot of the stressors that comes from living, people just don't know how to take breaks. They don't, and they have high blood pressure. They have, they become diabetic and things of all of those natures. And if we just learn how to, I play for a 7-day Adventist church, and they, 7-day Adventist, they believe in the Sabbath day, right? That day of rest is imperative, man. I've learned so much just by being at the 7-day Adventist because they teach about mental health. And we need to incorporate that a lot, especially in the Black community, because we run. I mean, literally, I work 7 days a week. So when I say this time and this season is so refreshing for me, I mean, I do feel sorry for the those that are being affected by the sickness and things of that nature. But for me personally, I mean, I work 7 days a week. I work, I'm at Centerra, then I leave Centerra, I go to First Baptist. Then when I don't have something at First Baptist, I'm at Coastal Shore 7-day Adventist. And so it's 7 days a week. And being a single father at that's a whole nother level of responsibility. So you have to learn how to take that break. And I wish I would have learned that a lot earlier. Now I'm 40, and I'm like, man, I probably wouldn't have had all this great. But we got to learn how to do that, literally.
And even with taking breaks, I think it's essential to really be able to trust who you have on your team. I've learned that a couple of times I took my wife on a vacation because she hasn't, she's not one to take a vacation. She's a nurse. She's always on duty. She's singing. She wants to appreciate everybody. So she's never available to take time for herself. So the time we went away for a vacation, we was able to get, a little situation where, you get so many travel incentives if you travel and stay here. So I'm telling you, we had stuff planned for this year, but, due to the pandemic, we can't really go anywhere. But I'm telling you, I've learned, after that 43 hospital day stay, I said, this is the last time that I would kill myself, whether it's food, whether it's overworking, whether it's trying to be everything to everybody and not take care of myself. So, and even with that, I think that brought me back to my spiritual side. And, this is a question that's open for anybody. A lot of us play in churches, sing in churches, teach in churches, run sound for churches. How important is this season is your faith in God should be? A lot of people talk real good. A lot of people say a lot of good things, but when it comes down, when the rubber meets the road, they like, God, why? What can we encourage someone spiritually during this time? Well, how important, rather, is it for musicians to be able to encourage each other during this time spiritually? Anybody can chime in.
Whatever relationship that you have, whether it's level 10 or it's level 1, or it may be 6,
right,
or move up to 8 on a third Sunday, or whatever, so have you. I guess you just supposed to just use this time, man, to really, like you said, reevaluate what's going on, because like you said, like I'm enjoying this time as well. But yeah, that's definitely something they're allowed. But if you learn, I'm at the place of, it's just like a diet or anything else. That's just how I'm looking at church right now. When you take discipline, when it requires discipline, it's a little tough. Like the moment I say, man, you know what? I'm gonna take a diet. I want to eat everything, right? Or the moment, like right now, I'm okay with sitting in the house. But as soon as they say pandemic, we got to stay in the house, I want to go outside.
Yeah.
If this was not the case, I would not go outside just randomly. But the fact that the psyche that I can't just go to Walmart or go to Wawa, get me a turkey sandwich with lettuce, tomato, mayonnaise, and yellow mustard with some salt and vinegar chips.
Come on now.
Come on back.
Because I can't do that. Just because you're saying I can't. I feel like now that we're in this place, this is a time for you to be like, to reevaluate, like, because I can't, like, this can be a triple, it can happen again. What if it gets to a place where we can't go to church no more? I can't fathom that. And I feel like this point that we're in, this is a level of like build up of scales or anything, like a construction worker. There's times where you start working, your hands get hard. You know, you don't feel stuff no more. You get cement hands and so on and so forth. I feel like that's where we are personally in the church. Like we've been so much going on. So now we've built scabs and hands are hard, relationship wise. So this is the time you got to go put our hands in some water, go get some lotions and stuff and peel back these scabs so we can be like, yo, hold up. Because the feelings that we used to have and going to church, it ain't happening no more. The things that we used to, I mean, we still get, you know, but it's like,
what's your cash app?
I want to
word right there.
I want to know, like, once this temporary situation is over, how many people are going to be back in church and not going to say that, man, I don't feel like going to church today. I'll go next Sunday.
Right.
You know, it's Bible study. Like, it's Bible study. I'll watch it online. You're going to be like, that was a time where it was like, you can't go to church.
I had to do that.
Now, what's going to happen if, God forbid, we get to a place even where there is no pandemic and it gets to a place like lawfully we can't go nowhere, or we can't go into a church, or you can't practice this no more? What are you going to do? And it stems back to you saying taking your personal time. Just as much as this is allowing us to practice your craft, get creative.
Right.
Like, where's the time for you to actually build your spiritual side? It's a challenge for me, and I'm just not saying this like you said, it's just to talk good. That's something that I got to do for myself now. Like, you know, everybody get outside, walk, stay healthy, you know, work out. Okay, so are we going to work out spiritually as well? Like, you got a lot of time on your hands. So I ain't going to brand and post a video. Maybe I should read some more.
Absolutely.
Maybe I should, like, shoot. And I ain't going to sleep all day. So how about I, like, pray for 30 minutes? Or, like, since my sleep pattern off and I'm up, why don't I just meditate? And like ultimately, like this stuff can help you when you come out of it. You come out like strong. Like I'm back in church. Like we laughing. The first day we get back in church, you're gonna be running around and jumping and kicking over pews because we're back in here. You get it? Everybody's track is ready.
Yeah.
Back, but it's like, what's gonna happen after that? Are you still? Is this gonna change your mentality? Like, oh, I'm weeding it out. I'm off. I'm in full throttle. So as encouragement to musicians, I would just say, man, while we're doing this, don't forget to don't neglect us, like building ourselves spiritually, man.
Absolutely.
And again, this is not, you said everybody can say the good stuff. This is like a personal like mention. Like when you speak it enough, you gotta hold yourself accountable. You keep saying it.
That's right.
Like I can't say it enough. So as encouragement to musicians, man, I would suggest that while we're creative with our finding other avenues, let's challenge yourself to be creative in your relationship, you know, in all that regard. So yeah.
Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Taylor is the Cash App since y'all asked. Amen.
I wanted to chime in on the previous topic, which was intertwined with this one about taking a break. One thing I've learned in church and even in corporate America, you have to take a break. and make sure that the people that are filling in for you or whatever are capable up to that standards. But at the end of the day, if you run yourself ragged, or even if something happens to you the following day and you die,
they're gonna have somebody.
Your position will be filled before you are even put in the ground.
With two people.
It never fails. And they will pay they'll pay the next person more than they were paying you.
Wow.
So you've got to take a break, because if you don't, I mean, you didn't create that position, you didn't create that job. So if you're really good and that church values you,
absolutely,
that position or that company values you, they'll want you to take a break, because they know when you come back, you're going to be refreshed with new ideas and whatever. I just wanted to add that to it.
Oh, no problem.
I'm glad you said that too, because in what I do with the band, we can get to the point where Friday, Saturday, every week we playing somewhere, right? But I told my band, I said, hey, look, this is what we're going to do, because a lot of us, have families, a lot of us playing church, and on Saturdays we could be out till 3 o'clock in the morning and got to be at church at 7 a.m. Right. But I told them, I said, hey, look, once a month, we're going to take either a Friday or a Saturday, and we're not going to accept nothing. And you can do what you want to do, but for that time, you can spend it with your family, stay at home, sleep, pray, whatever you want to do. But a Friday and a Saturday out of every month, one of those days, we're not going to do no shows. I'm not accepting anything. They can call, are you guys available? Yeah, we're available, but we're not, we're not accepting it, because I think that is important for, like we're talking about having vacation, but it's also important for you to be with your family and be with people that don't get to see you that much. Like Tavor said, he's a single dad. So if he's doing stuff 7 days a week, his daughter, as she gets older, she's gonna just be like, hey, well, my dad's not, he's not paying me no attention. So it's very important for everybody to have, for my band, it's important for all of us, and all of us have kids and stuff, but it's important for all of us to be able to spend time with our family, spend time with our kids, take your kids to the zoo, go to Chuck E. Cheese, do something, and whenever we have shows that families could come to, like if you're out on the ocean front or anything, I always tell them, I say, hey, tell your family to come, bring your family, because sometimes your son or your daughter may want to see you sing, or may want to see you play the keyboard, or may want to see you play the drums. Like, bring them to the show with you, especially when they can come, because if they can't, a lot of times they can't come. So bring them when you can, spend as much time as you can with them. And, I try to do different things with the band as far as, stuff that we can do together, family stuff together. So that stuff is very important, because again, like everybody said, you can get burnt out quick. And once you're burnt out, you're burnt out. And I'm taking it out on my wife. I'm taking it out on Mickey. If he called me, I'm taking it out on everybody. Like, leave me alone. So it's very important to me. Like everybody said, just want to chime in and say something.
And one of the reasons why I brought that question up, because I was talking to a young musician, and he was telling me how, his money was funding because this pandemic has really slowed down a lot of his side gigs, and church services are really dwindling down. And I asked him, I said, well, have you prayed about, where to go? He said, man, honestly, man, I'm so busy, man, I forgot how to pray.
Wow.
Or I've been in church so much distracted that when these principles were being taught, and when the word was being given, and when those Bible studies or revivals were at hand, you were too busy doing whatever, on the drums, on your phone, distracted, whatever. And it just hurt me to my heart to really see a musician. Like, now, Bishop Green used to always say, if you go to hell, you need to be the best hell goer that there is. Don't go to hell second class, So why go to church? Why be a musician, a sound tech, a teacher, a preacher? And then, you can't even encourage yourself during the season. You don't know what to say to somebody if they ask you about how can I be saved, or, basic principle, not even your area, but just spiritually. And that's it. That pricks something in me to say, hey, Devon, as much as you want to teach lessons and as much as you want to showcase people, amazing musicians and singers, let's take them back to the reason why we do all of this. And that's because we want to glorify God. And if God's not glorified in all that we do, then we're really doing it in vain. So that's one reason why I brought up that question about, don't go to hell from the organ or the drums or the bass. Right. If you don't go to hell, go from the club. No, but I say that jokingly.
Hey, Mickey, can I add something to that?
Yeah.
I think also is important, and I mean, I don't know who's a pastor or whatever, but I think a lot of times with musicians, they only go to church because they see it as employment. They see it as an occupation, or they see it as a financial gain. They don't see the importance of like how to invest in themselves spiritually. Mm-hmm. So honestly, if you took away a check, I would probably say a strong percentage of musicians probably wouldn't go to church. Yeah. So if they're not going to go to church, then ultimately they don't understand the value of investing into themselves spiritually. Right. So as a pastor, as a leader, you have to take the time to pour into your musicians. You have to take the time to mentor. Like for me, myself, I think a lot of, as a minister of music, is a very small scale in regards to the music part of it. Pat said, what Pat said was so on key. The administrative and the pastoring part that comes within a minister of music is really the key of making sure that your music ministry is healthy, but your music ministry is only going to be as healthy as your people. Right. So if your people are healthy spiritually, then you will have a healthy music ministry. Absolutely. So a lot of times, you have to take the time out, and it can't just come from, when you're in church, but you have to take the time out in your rehearsals. Mm-hmm. You got to take the time out to call, your band members, call your other musicians, call your sopranos, altos, and your tenors, and all of the people that you don't really want to talk to, and just ask them those questions. Yeah. Literally, ask them the questions like, hey, let's pray together. What's going on? Anything? That's the big part about being a leader. And I agree with what Jeremy said. If you are over any organization or any group, you have that responsibility to make sure that the people that you are leading, that their well-being is number one priority. Right. That is the key. You can't just suck people dry based off of their skill and their gifts, and then you use them, and then that's just it. You don't care about anything else. Right. You have to take that time out to pour into the people that you're leading. I agree.
The time we're living in is made it hard for that. We're living in a paycheck time. Mm-hmm. That's it. People just going to the highest bidder, and once you finish playing, ain't nobody concerned about. I just want the best person on that keyboard. Yep. Mm-hmm. So, and back in the day, we poured into everybody. Now, go to most of these churches. Are you a member? Like, no, I ain't even a member. I'm playing. So they ain't about your spiritual bit. Just be on the organ. I know some musicians that go and they got the weed still on them. They don't care. They don't care. Once you play that track and the music is good, we done got way back from pouring into who got the best money.
And Calvin, I'm glad that you said that, because that's a sad truth. Because I had to remind myself that everyone knows about 3 years ago, I left a church to go to the church that I'm serving now as minister of music. And I've done more with less trust in God than I've had when I've had a lot more finances coming in. And I said, to this day, I don't know how. I mean, of course I know now that it's because of my tithing, it's because of my giving, it's because of my service to God, it's because of my helping whenever I can, whatever my hands find to do. But it took for me to have that spiritual moment to say, hey, are you going to trust this employment, or are you going to trust me? But had I not had the people like I consider Calvin a mentor, and my home church, and Patrick, and everybody on here in some form or fashion has helped me to, hey, Devon, you need to trust God, because if God is your source, this paycheck can stop. This church can close down. That gig can get canceled. But if God is your source, He will not have you go without. And I promise you, and I hate to make it sound like a preacher moment, but if you really trust God, and as musicians and Levites, we're not going to talk about Levites, but just as musicians and singers and engineers, I really think that we need to get back to the basics. In this time of downtime, learning music, being strong in all of your keys, and learning rudiments and whatever you need to do to strengthen your craft. let's include God in that. I think Brandon said that. That's not, you know, segregate God out the picture. Let's include him in the conversation. I think anybody else want to chime in?
You're preaching.
Yeah,
You got to
and
I,
you know, with the band, we play secular music.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, but before every rehearsal and at the end of every rehearsal, we pray. I don't care what nobody say. We pray. It's a specific person that I call out. Sometimes I'll do it, or I might call one of the band members. Hey, say a prayer. Let's start. And at the end, we're gonna pray, because I believe that we playing in church, and we playing these secular gigs, but like everyone said, we still should have that relationship with God, because even though we playing in this secular gig, we could be in a club and somebody come and shoot up the club.
That's right.
If I die and everybody else die in there, I know where I'm going, but where's everybody else going? So I'm going to do my part, the you know, few hours I'm with you guys, to ensure that we have, you know, a prayer at least. We're going to at least pray. Before the gig, we could go outside by the trailer and pray. Nobody not going to stop us. They might stop us inside the restaurant, but they're not going to stop us, you know, outside. So we just need to all be, you know, straight with God. Like, where's your relationship with God before any of these gigs? And like you just said, Mickey, like, you know, gigs get canceled, or one of Calvin or Mickey said, the gigs get canceled, money is gone. What are you doing? Like, you was planning on these gigs, but the money is gone now. So who are you going to depend on? You going to depend on what? Selling weed? You going to depend on the church, or you going to depend on God? Which one is it? So we got to figure out, you know, before we do any of this, where's your mindset to? Is your mindset on God, or is your mindset on something else? And my biggest thing is, look, let's have fun, yeah, but let's also ensure that the people that we plan for know that we still spiritual, that God is still number one before we come and play for you guys. So that's very important as well.
We're coming to the end of our conversation, but I think it was really helpful just to discuss some things that's relevant in this moment. You know, people are down, people are going through, people are struggling, people don't know how they're going to take care of their next day. You know, and granted, you know, they're going to, you know, some places will hold off on shutting off water and electricity, but guess what? As soon as this pandemic lifts, they come in for full payment for all of that. So if you can pay it during the pandemic, how are you going to pay it the moment after? So, you know, I think people need this encouragement, especially from the brotherhood and sisterhood of musicians, singers, teachers, and even before I close out, I did want to ask a question, because someone asked me about, you know, technology with this virtual church temporary situation that we're in. I want to ask how important is it, you know, to know what you're doing, you know, because it's one thing to mix the sound for a room with 500 people. It's a whole nother thing to mix the sound for 5 or 10 people and have it to be crystal clear. So what advice or tips or tools could you give to that church trying to get their sound ready for virtual?
I think what people need to realize is that when we were doing it the old way, you know, before the pandemic, so BP, you were only competing with a couple of churches around the corner, around the block. But at this time, when people are sitting in front of their computers, if you putting trash out on the internet, people gonna log off of your trash. Although you play church, right? They might even send you their little tithes, give it a fly, or whatever it is. Or they're gonna go watch TD Jakes, or they're gonna watch somebody else's church that has a better presentation.
Absolutely.
Now, at this point, now you're competing with the world. You're not competing with the church around the corner from you. You're competing with the world. Whoever has the best presentation from the 10 o'clock hour to about the 12 o'clock hour, that's who your church member is going to log on to. So they might check in and check back out. If you're not giving them the best possible presentation, they're not going to be faithful online. So I've been really, you know, helping the few places that have reached out to me. I've gone there. I've shown them how to, you know, actually monitor the mix of what's going out, and, you know, syncing videos and doing all kinds of stuff like that. And, you know, just to go back on everything that you guys are saying, it's crazy. Like I said, I've been put in this position. I feel like I've been put in this position to trust God more. Because I've been blessed to the point where church was not my my full time. It wasn't what I needed to sustain my family. Like I said in the beginning, it was my 10%. It was just, a little icing on the cake. And now, with my business almost completely shut down, besides the other things that I'm doing, I'm learning how to trust God with this, with just a little bit.
Absolutely.
So it's, it's crazy. And then also the vacation too. I thank God that I was able to go on vacation before this all happened. I just came back February 28th.
You better go ahead.
So I was able to take that time, and that's it. That's all I got.
Alex, we want to hear from you. You've been a little quiet a couple of moments. I want you to share with us, Alex.
I think just for the last point, I think the whole situation is really bringing everybody back centered. It was something that I said specifically with building your relationship, but I think it doesn't just have to do with self. I think it's bringing the church back focused on what the center or what the main focus should be, is bringing the world, those people who are unbelievers.
Right.
You see people praying more. You see people reaching out to other people more. So I think it's a lot of different things that you can glean and take from this all. But I think God needed to get everybody's attention. And this was the way he needed to get everybody's attention. This was the time where we can't do anything. We're literally sitting. And like Brandon said, this is the time where you can do that self-exploration, that self-assessment. How can I grow? But for those people, who don't have that system or that belief, this is the time where I feel like, this is his opportunity. This is where he's piercing their heart and, really trying to get them to see who he is. So I think it's a time for us to be, especially as a body of the Christ, be in tune with those people, I guess, and be nurturing them and receptive and accepting them, because everybody is going through a lot. And I just really think that this is a crucial time for Christians to either the light or to be something to push people away. So I think if we really realize that, then I think the main point of what we're supposed to get out of this moment is going to be received. And I really think that we'll be able to win souls for God.
I agree wholeheartedly. Elder Riddick, you look like you had something to say. I saw you lean up a couple of times.
This man with the face.
Everybody. Seriously, everybody is just talking so good. I'm just of the mindset, and I'll probably use myself. When you've been doing this a long time, you get real comfortable in what it is that you do very well.
Yeah.
A lot of the processes and things that we're having to do now that we had to become innovative and creative with were treated as redheaded stepchilds. Media, this whole Wi-Fi, streaming was just used really pretty much to do, but the things in our churches that we took for granted or really made secondary, and even a lot of times we wrote it off as that's a mega church mentality. Right. That has now caused us to think about that. Not only that, those of us that are musicians here on this call, it has caused all of us to think of ways to expand ourselves and to be stretched that we did not think about before. At the end of the day, like I said, I never would have thought about the consultations. Even with the church that I'm serving in Newport News, at the end of the day, I do the choir. I don't do the praise team. And everybody knows, I can do praise team, but everybody knows Pastor Riddick's a churchy, crazy guy. He's Absolutely. Not worshipy at all. But guess what? If I wasn't there in the choir, then that means I wasn't going to get my check.
Uh-oh.
So what did I have to do? Here's the first thing a lot of people, we heard a lot tonight. While we understand that this pandemic is breaking a lot of pockets, I'm also watching a lot of musicians exhibit real bad attitudes towards these pastors, and you're messing yourselves up. Mm-hmm. So when I went through it and I was scared,
too much.
Like, okay, I need this check. What am I going to do? I called Pastor right away and I said, sir, I realize what we're going through right now. If no money is coming in, there's nothing to give out. And there ain't no choir singing now. You're using a praise team. But I need my check. What is it I can do around the church? Even if I got to clean up, what do you need me to do so I can get my check? Based off of good relationship, like I said, being on time and And when everything was going good, you were doing your work like you were supposed to.
Absolutely.
Giving honest, you're being productive. He said, this is what I want to do. I'm going to have you rehearse my praise team, because now that the praise team is the focal point for these live broadcasts, I need it to be right. And because of that, I'm able to continue to get my income from that church. But now that caused me to think about, Pat, coming up out of this thing, you got to make sure that you're not just limiting yourself to what you're comfortable to. Otherwise, the next pandemic that comes, you may not be so blessed.
Yeah.
That's right.
So now I'm sitting around thinking every day, how can I keep myself from becoming dated to the point that I would not be able to thrive?
If you don't stretch yourself, you're going to eventually die.
Yeah.
And I think, straight case in point, if you're not willing to grow to that uncomfortable place, I think you just limit yourself. And I often look at my musician friends who started businesses, who started just moving out of their car, and now, like Dom has his own the Right Touch moving company. Calvin was just playing keyboard for everybody back at home, and now he has Austin Touch, studios. All these people that were just doing stuff because they were good at it and they loved it. They took what they love and enjoyed and made it make sense. Because at the end of the day, why not do something that you love and still get compensated for it? But then again, you don't want to ever, and like you said, Elder, I think that's really important. We can't limit ourselves. Somebody said it earlier, I forgot who it was. It's no reason why a musician should be broke during this time, because there's so many ways. I mean, you could do jingles for Titus radio show. You could do anything. Music is the one thing that everybody has to have in their life, whether they realize it or not. And I think because of our relationship in this area, we're strong enough to make money even in the pandemic. So I thank you all for your encouragement. I
just wanted to go back to what Patrick said, because I don't want to call no names, but because of the relationship that I had with certain pastors.
Call them, please.
No, I'm not going to call them names. They have reached out to me and have found stuff for me to do.
That's right.
Because and this is, I don't want to go no further than that, but there's been people that I haven't been employed by that have reached out and it's like, hey man, why don't you come put some TVs up in my house? Why don't you come do this? Why don't you come do this? Hey man, could you come do a workshop and show my sound crew now that the church is empty? And I thank God for that, because I've had a relationship and I've treated them right when things were good, where they reached out. I was like, oh, wait a minute, I know that you ain't doing concerts no more, you ain't DJing no more, you ain't doing it. Why don't you come do this for me real quick? So that's a real good thing to remember, that you got to have good relationships and can't be dogging people because you didn't do something right, because it's in this time, those relationships is what is sustaining me.
That's right.
Absolutely. And I can say personally, for everybody that's included in this conversation has either done a favor for me or has helped me in some way, form, or fashion, whether it's me, my wife, doing her EP release, whether it was sharing a duet with her, whether it's playing for her, whatever the case may be. I think relationship is connection is what's going to get us through. Unity, strength. There's always strength in numbers, and that's why when Tidewater Talks, it's just always been about bridging the gap, bringing people together. And before we bring it to a close, is there anybody that want to have anything to say for, final remarks?
I just want to say the last thing is, and I respect everybody else because I know everybody else on here that does it. My thing is multiple streams of income. Let God be the source. I don't care how much your job is a great source, but you can't let it be your only source. Find something, and this pandemic is showing everybody you got to have multiple streams. I don't care. Once we get out, I'm going to make beats. I'm going to be in the studio. I'm going to find. See people in masks. Don't have just one thing, because you can see that one thing can dry up and you be sitting at home looking stupid.
You put all your eggs in one basket.
And outside.
Musicians, though. It's not just musicians. Because at one
overall,
point, it used to be like, they ain't a real job.
That's what they say.
The real jobs, the essential people, they at home too, just like us. Everybody has gotten affected. So it's kind of like now it's kind of leveling us, everybody. What we're doing, let's be honest, like they used to look at us, some people get treated. Musicians was kind of like ain't a real job. That's a hobby.
That's what they think.
That ain't no real, Sam, like what you said earlier, it's teaching people to like, you missing like streams, all this. Pastors who looked at it like, man, we don't need all that. Now y'all like, so what's this about this stream? What's about Facebook? Facebook, the devil. Like it's waking everybody up, man. So like Big Bro said, you gotta find multiple streams. And I receive that. If you was speaking that on everybody, I receive that one because
that's it.
I need multiple streams, my Lord. And again, if your drums sound terrible, call me. I'm in the consulting business. Amen.
And if your stream sound like it's coming straight off the cell phone, call me.
Hey, Brandon, shoot me your number, bro. I need to holler at you.
Okay, hey, absolutely. I'm serious. It all happened.
Me too.
I got my a la carte, all that down. I got my already ready.
Listen, thank everyone for tuning in for when Tidewater Talks. Guess what is canceled? Interview conversation that we've had. I think it's been really great to have some of Virginia's greatest to chime in on various aspects, from the church to the club to the industry, just to the school system, everywhere. So thank you all. Share this video. If you have any questions to anybody that was on this flyer, feel free to shoot them an inbox, shoot them a message, and I'm quite sure they definitely will get back with you and at least get you to the right person that you need to be connected to. So thank y'all. Have a great day. Stay safe. Stay at home if you can, and make sure you continue to wash your hands. All right, y'all have a good one, man.
All right. You too.
Dom, finish playing the organ, Dom. I see you.
Y'all be safe.
All right. Oh, no.